We're broadcasting and we're coming from around the world. We are really excited about our first ever conversation about agribusiness. And we've got 5 amazing experts with us today who are going to come at it from different perspectives, and we're really thrilled for all of them. We're going to start out today in Indianapolis, Indiana, and there in Indianapolis we have Gina Sheets, who's the Senior Fellow at Sagamore Institute, and you can see from the information online that we've posted that she has an extraordinary background, particularly many years in Africa and in Liberia setting up agricultural systems, and she's also been very instrumental in the state of Indiana with agriculture programs. So today Gina is going to be talking a little bit about what she's been up to, what she's working on, and potentially then how we can become involved in what she's doing. So Gina, good morning, good afternoon, welcome, and thank you for speaking here today at Global Chamber.
Good morning, Doug. Thank you. It's an honor, and I'm just happy to be on this platform with other great leaders in global agriculture.
Fantastic. Would you like to kick us off today and tell us a little bit more about your situation and kind of what you're up to, what some of the key challenges are that you see out there in the market, and then what are some of the opportunities that you're involved with that others might be interested in as well?
Most certainly. I've spent the past 20 years working in economic development, working in rural development with small businesses all the way up to international trade with large partners around the world. Most recently coming back from Liberia, West Africa, transitioning to the state of Indiana. It's the state of Indiana where I really had the opportunity to work in state government under the appointment of Governor Mike Pence, who we all know as Vice President now. I was his first director for the Indiana State Department of Agriculture, coming from the State Department of Agriculture, working in economic development prior to that. I've worked on the county level in economic development and worked with county level governments. So from a global perspective, spending 5 years in Liberia, which is the world's 4th poorest country, but certainly not poor in agriculture business opportunities. There, my husband and I were based on a college campus where we developed the School of Agriculture. We developed agriculture curriculum in applied sciences for agriculture with degrees at the associate and bachelor's level. We developed an agriculture research center focusing on fruits, vegetables, row crop production, and livestock. We had the only milk goat herd in the country of Liberia. Now we are back in the state of Indiana working on our own small farm and spending time as a senior fellow with the Sagamore Institute looking at global consortium, bringing a network focusing on agriculture, land, business, and education development. The challenge that we have had the opportunity to see, especially in agriculture development, is that there is a world of opportunity in developing countries. And yet it takes investment of people. So we're looking at human capital. It is so easy to put technology and to put infrastructure in place, spending a few months in agriculture development and leaving thinking that money is going to make agriculture grow. And it's back to the old adage, you don't know what you don't know. And technology and money aren't going to put education, agriculture education, into the minds and application of farmers. So that's one of the challenges that I see right now in agriculture development and the potential. We know it's there, but we really need to spend time developing the educational levels of our farmers to access and to grow for themselves and then go into the market. The other opportunity that we see is the opportunity to develop policies. Again, you can go into a country with a great product or want to take a great product out of the country. But if those trade policies that might be in place are not being enforced due to power levels and corruption levels, the door might stop, unfortunately. And I think that is a very important issue on the horizon.
Include trade regulations.
Can you repeat that one more time?
you mentioned about trade policies. That also involves regulations, right? In terms of like if it's a product is improved somewhere and then you're trying to bring it into a new country, you don't want to go through another 5 or 10 years of consumer testing.
No, and you really need to know before you ever get to that level, you have to know where your marketplace is. You have to spend time, hands-on time, investing in yourself, into those markets, into those countries, into those regulations. Somebody might tell you something, but you need to trust and verify for yourself to understand what technology you might be trying to bring or bring out of a country. Absolutely. I've seen failure on many different levels, from something very basic as to licensing that seems like it should be in place to licensing that's not in place, and that can take months or even years to get the type of technology, to get the product in that you want, again, or out of a country.
You mentioned that you were part of the first milk goat herd in Liberia. How many milk goat herds are there now?
We still have the only milk goat herd. This has been about a 2-year process now. It takes time to develop the herd, and quite honestly, we are controlling our genetics. Our nannies are not leaving our farm, and we will sell castrated billies, the wethers, but we are controlling that genetic. We have brought in new genetics on our farm of poultry. We have very large dual-purpose birds. We have turkeys. We have the only quail, Texas A&M quail. We are trying to develop a food stock, but the difficulty is everyone can go into a country and say, wow, there's not enough meat in the market. But the question you have to answer is why? Well, is it because people don't know how to raise poultry? No, people don't have the resources and the ability to feed their livestock. So again, you need to spend time looking and asking the question of why isn't something here? Why isn't this agriculture product available on the market? And from then begin to do your research. It's not always as easy on the surface as what the answer might seem. Oh, well, because the poultry or the chicken isn't on the market because we eat too much, we consume too much. Well, the reality is we might not have enough feedstock to feed the animals to get enough in the market for consumption. Okay,
very good. Thank you for that introduction. We'll be coming back to you, and for everybody who's watching and listening both live and on the recording. On the recording, we can't help you with questions other than sending in emails after the fact, but if you're live here today, feel free to use the Q&A area and post your questions, and we'll have some time at the end of this program to ask your questions to whoever you'd like it directed to. So we're going to shift from mainly an animal conversation to a vegetable beverage conversation with Jean Ekobo here in Phoenix, Arizona. We're actually in Scottsdale, Arizona at the headquarters for Global Chamber. Jean is next to me here. Jean, would you like to come up and tell us a little bit more about what you're doing? Some really interesting and fascinating activity all around the world. Jean.
Is that the right height? Everybody can see me? Okay. Very good. Yeah, like that. Perfect. Thank you very much, Doug, and thank you for having me. Everybody can hear me? Yep, look good. Okay, so my name is Jean Ekobo, and I'm the CEO and founder of Bionovelus. We are based here in Arizona at the CEI. It's an entrepreneur innovation incubator, and we are brand new in the agribusiness. We develop a new technology to be able to kill bacteria, spores, and fungi, and we can kill pretty much from Salmonella, E. coli, to pathogens such as Botrytis or Emidia vexatris, well known at the coffee rust leaf. And our company has been working with the farmers on the field to be able to understand, like Linda was saying, that you have to understand what are the questions and what are the real problems. And you can know that only when you go on the field. And we find out that the farmers have 4 main problems. The first problem is that the society is asking them to produce more food in the same land available, and the society is asking them also to be able to get more environmentally friendly and use less of toxical products. And also we're asking them to reduce their cost so the end user can have a product who's cheaper in the plate. So with our CR10, we have shown on the test that we're doing in Guatemala and Costa Rica that this is possible. And this is possible because you use a great product, is organic, it's a biofungicide, is non-toxic for humans or for the plant. And basically it's all about the prevention, that a better prevention will save a lot of money to the farmers. We are able to use our product and reduce 3 to 4 different chemicals that people are using usually to be able to grow their vegetable. We're talking about tomatoes or peppers or eggplant. And basically by using our organic product, they are able to remove the toxic chemicals from their wardrobe. And also we prove that our product is capable of getting 90% better yield in the product, not the yield, but in the health of the plants, okay, on the health of the plant. But I will go back to the yield. And actually, when the plants are healthy, when the plants have no pathogen, and when they're protected correctly, they are going to be able to produce more. And actually, we were able to get 30% more yield. Let's say in a 600 plant of peppers, we're able to increase the production of 3,000 pounds. From 7,000 pounds, we can go to 10,000 pounds of production for bell peppers. That's a huge increase. And also, by doing that, the farmers at the end of the year is going to be able to get, with, from our calculation, $1,465 extra. So that means that the farmers, when he get that kind of money, is happy to be able to be a farmer, that his land and his labor is paying off, and at the end, the consumer are going to have a better price. And that's what we're able to do. And the challenge that we have as a small company are 2 things. It's the capital and is the regulation, the regulatory. As we know, and like Judy was saying just a little bit earlier, a regulation is really difficult when you come with a great product, with a bio product, compared to a chemical product, because most of the regulation was designed for chemical products. So now people have to think a little bit different to be able to adapt their regulation to biochemical products. And we see that countries like Central America or Africa are more open to be able to do that because they value their land. They understand that their land, it's where they're going to be able to bank into the future, that the agriculture around Africa or Central America is their gift. It's not the technology, it's not the semiconductor and things like that, it's their land. So they are more open to be able to look at new technology, who's going to be able to get them to improve their land. So those are the basic challenge.
Okay. Thank you, Jean. Please stay there. And this is Doug. I'm going to be talking a little bit off camera. So Jean, you mentioned capital and regulations are the 2 main issues. So capital means you have way too much capital, and regulations mean there's not enough regulations.
It's the opposite, contrary. Okay. Basically, is that as a small business, and when you have a company whose potentially disruptive technology, you need a lot of capital to be able to prove that. But because you don't have those capital, it's going to take you more time to be able to prove the proof of concept of your technology, because you cannot do all the testing that you want in different areas at the same time. So you have to go through your burn rates to be able to be sure that you are not putting in jeopardy the life of your company. And regarding the regulation, I'm talking about like our company, we have to go in each country understand in the country what are the regulations of the country, so we can understand what we can do and how long it's going to take to be able to get a product. When we know that the product, the farmers are needed in those type of technology, but because the regulation are based on 20th century chemical technology, that we are in the 21st century and everything is changing. The world is switching from what we call biofuel, I just forget the name, fossil fuel energy to more renewable energy. So that people have to change the way they think, and also in the agriculture.
Gotcha. You also need to know, I suppose, where you should roll out. So for instance, I've heard that Nicaragua, as an example, if you can get qualified on the regulation side in Nicaragua, it opens up doors a little faster. Are things like that available? Shortcuts? Or are those hidden?
Actually, there's no shortcut. Like you were saying a little bit earlier, you have to see and you have to verify by yourself. And usually what people tell you is not exactly the truth. Okay, so you have to go to each of those countries and verify with the people, with the government, what are the rules, because those kind of rules actually don't apply. What they say is that they're going to harmonize. Okay, but harmonize doesn't mean that if you have approval in one country, you're going to be able to enter into the other one. But they have the same rules. You still have to go through that each country and do the same paperwork.
I see. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Before we move to our next speaker will be David, but before we move on to that, the bridge between you and David is also capital and funding, and you've got a unique way that you've financed and capitalized your company. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
It's called debt and called friends and family.
Okay. So that's not so unique, actually. But
that's not unique.
I thought you were a publicly traded company, and through that you got some finance.
Yes, actually, because we are a publicly traded company, we are able to have more exposure. So more exposure, that means also that people trust, because everything is transparent. So it's going to be easier for us to be able to attract in the future when the proof of concept is verified that our product works, and is going to be a game changer. It's going to be easier at that time for us to attract real big capital.
So I noticed yesterday or the day before, Bionovelus in the Twitter account, which you can go to, Bionovelus,
Yes.
I believe. You posted your second quarter results,
Yes.
which a lot of companies in your stage wouldn't normally do, but that's because you're publicly traded.
That's because we are publicly traded. We want to be sure that people understand what we're doing, and we want to really show the world that we have a technology that they can trust and they can find.
I see. Fantastic. Thank you very much. We'll be back to you with some additional questions in a moment. Next, we're going to go to Springfield, Illinois. And when we talked to David Geisler of Vertical Innovations about which office he should go to, he was basically over 5 hours or more to 3 different locations for Global Chamber. So rather than make him drive 5 to 8 hours to either Kansas City or St. Louis or to Chicago, we're catching him today at their headquarters in Springfield, Illinois. David runs a company, I mentioned Vertical Innovations, that focuses in on vertical farming. And in particular, in that area, there are plenty of grain silos that have gone fallow or dormant or are available to be used, and through the availability they've developed some technologies that create a lot of productivity in agriculture through vertical farming, and he's going to be talking about what they're up to today. David, hello in Springfield.
Hello, and actually it's Springfield, Missouri. So we, but I appreciate it. I'm deeply honored to be able to present to Global Chamber today. Look forward to hopefully adding some, maybe a different perspective, a non-traditional perspective as it relates to agribusiness, because I am an attorney by trade and have really just got involved in the vertical aquaculture, agriculture space in the last probably 2.5 years. It's been incredibly informative thus far to hear from Jean and from Gina, and hopefully I can provide some insight. We at Vertical Innovations it's an adaptive reuse of concrete grain elevators to convert them into what we consider to be the world's largest and most efficient hydroponic farms. They'll be plant factories, if you will. We'll focus primarily on leafy greens to start, but have the ability to adapt to other product offerings, from herbs to potentially mushrooms, and in further adaptations of our technology, we believe we'll be able to introduce more flowering plants, and potentially tomatoes, and other products that typically have a greater demand, but they also have a greater need for hands-on treatment of the product. So, as I think we've all kind of alluded to in this conversation thus far, our key challenge has been educating investors and strategic partners into what we're able to do. I know it sounds somewhat shallow, but I think it's true that in my Southwest Missouri nomenclature, folks with money tend to lack vision, and so that's really been a struggle for us. We, in Southwest Missouri, in my backyard, people understand the importance of agriculture, but they don't necessarily understand what we would call the new economy, the blockchain, the artificial intelligence information, and the new economy that's out there. That's really a tremendous opportunity for investors. On the coast, where there is a lot of money, in my humble opinion, on the sidelines, they understand the new economy, but they don't understand agriculture. And so our key challenge is bringing together those two groups of people, the Midwesterners that have the affluent Midwesterners that may not be in tune with the new economy, and the folks on the coast that have the insight into the new economy, but don't necessarily appreciate the opportunity that's available in agriculture. Our goal is to be able to produce on scale and at a quality and a quantity and a price point that allows us to tap into what we're calling the farm to institution market. It's my belief, and I think the research out there shows that there are a number of large institutions, be they universities, be they school systems, be they hospital networks, that are looking for an opportunity to provide a healthier, more traceable, more sustainable product to their patients, to their students, to their employees. And currently there's not a mechanism in place that allows for production on that scale to be available to those institutions. Either the product is too expensive or they can't meet the supply. That's one of the things that our aquaculture system allows us to solve. We feel like we can produce, potentially hundreds of acres of production in a footprint of potentially less than an acre by going truly vertical. The opportunity that's available through our aquaculture system is, while it's vertical farming based, it is really more of a infrastructure rebuild, adaptive reuse opportunity that it's available, because we're taking these icons of our agricultural past and turning them back on and making them productive assets in a 21st century economy. We have the opportunity within our facilities to create some additional intellectual property that would be an additional asset that would be available to investors, and for that create additional value that can be transferred not just from our aquaculture system, but can be transitioned into the silo industry as a whole, because there are still active grain elevators. It's more consolidated than it was 50 years ago when they built a lot of these structures. We have the ability, based upon the size and the structure and the strength of these facilities to do some renewable energy items, whether it's solar panels on the sides, whether it's vertical access wind generation on the top of them. The biggest benefit is that a lot of these facilities are available for pennies on the, not just hundreds or thousands, but really pennies on the hundreds of thousands of dollars. We believe that, as the studies show, that farmland in this country is disappearing at the rate of 2 acres a minute. Clearly, we know that the population is continuing to grow. So there is a need for, not just in this country, but from a global perspective, for us to be able to figure out how to grow more product with less land that's currently available. And so we believe that, as with, cities that grew, when people realized they all wanted to live in the same area, they went vertical. And I think farming is a situation where now we've come to a point where we're going to have to go vertical. And, really one of the exciting things I think that about what we're trying to do and what we're doing is that we can allow investors and strategic partners to, in some ways, satisfy a philanthropic need that they feel that they want to create a public benefit, because what we're doing is we're creating jobs and we're returning some control to local economies. And it can be, not just within the Midwest or this country, but a global situation. These facilities are all around the world, and they're also available for a new build. And, we can potentially take these to developing countries, provided they have the infrastructure. As Gina so eloquently put, it's not the lack of desire to do something in developing countries. It's the lack of resources. And if we can figure out a way to tap into some of the resources, or to, bridge the gap to allow for resources to be more artfully utilized, utilizing our technology, we can really create something great, not just in this country, but I believe around the world. Because, I think our big idea is something that can potentially revolutionize agriculture. And, we just need some capital to get, to prove our concept, because I think once the concept is more artfully proven, the opportunities will be abundant. Talking back about regulations and policies, one of the interesting things I think we'll be able to tap into is that we're going to be almost a science lab type environment for food production. And while we're not going to be technically organic, I think there will be an opportunity to work with colleagues at the state and federal level to create a new certification protocol for organic farming, or not for organic farming, but for indoor hydroponic controlled environment agriculture, that will be a standard that we can be on the front end of trying to create the regulations and the standards, so that the people, as we continue to grow and license our technology, there'll be a regulation system in place that will assure a consistent quality, not just in this country, but for wherever our technology is employed.
Great. Thank you, David. Really appreciate it. We'll be back to you. I've got a number of questions for you. Our next visit is Buenos Aires, Argentina, and Ricardo Vanella. He is an extraordinary leader in Argentina, both on the business side and in the agriculture side. His family is involved very heavily in agriculture in Argentina, but he's also very well connected in business. He's also very well connected in diplomacy, and that's how I know Ricardo, through the organization Global Ties. I believe he is still the only non-American on their global board that meets in Washington, D.C. He'll correct me, I'm sure, here in a second, and we're very honored to have him as a global advisor for Global Chamber in Buenos Aires. Ricardo, tell us a little bit about what's going on there in Argentina. What are some of the opportunities, and how can we get involved?
Good morning to everybody. Thanks, Doug, for your kind presentation. Here we are, let's say that we are pretty happy because we have had last Sunday the first primary legislative elections, a sort of proof, a test for the new government, and they have done very well. So I think this is a very nice confirmation that Argentina is going back to what it was, a normal country. We are very, very happy about that. And that's a very good news also for business, because institutions are working normally and all the markets are doing normally, including, of course, agriculture, which is agriculture and farming, and cattling. This is a very important sector in Argentina, which is one of the biggest food producers in the world. This is a sector, an industry, which is more than 150 years old. There's no surprises. This is not a startup. We're talking about farming and food processing. Both of them are very consolidated. And in terms of opportunities about what Argentina can offers in the farming field, we have, I think, very good opportunities in secondary areas, not the most expensive areas, because they are all productive and they are all at the top of the technology and equipment, but in the secondary areas, which range in about $6,000 to $1,000 per 2.5 acres. They are very good lands, but they have lack of water. The water is underground, so I think that with clean and autonomous energy, you can take the water at 70 meters, 100 meters, 200 meters. The water is available, but it's underground. So the investment is less to buy the lands and to make them to be productive, and the challenge is to invest, to drill the water, and to create the system of the irrigation system. That's for the farm, and there are very good opportunities here, very good opportunities. For that, you need investors and people who are involved in agricultural business, and contacts. As our colleague from Indianapolis said, I loved what she said when she mentioned the importance of having somebody local, a local asset to guide you, to confirm, and to work together, because otherwise this is a globalized world, but you still need local people to translate you, to facilitate the comprehension and to make all the path, the local path, more, easy. At the food processing level, we have also a very good opportunity in the supply chain, at the ingredients level. All the inputs you need to produce the final food you find in the supermarket. And for that case, my suggestion is to buy some middle players, which are around the 40 up to 80 US million dollars per year of income. They are very good players, very interesting, very interesting to buy some of them. I know them very well. And that's for supplying the food processing industry. Also, the supplies for farming is very interesting business. And what I think should be mentioned is that we are working very hard right now, I mean, nowadays, for trade agreements between Argentina and the US about biofuel. We are a very, very important producer, and the US are complaining about some sort of perhaps dumping because biofuel is very cheap in Argentina. And of course, we have the well-known meat, the beef, and we are we are very close, getting very close to have the U.S. market reopen for our Argentine beef. Besides, of course, we have all the grains, wheat, soybean. We are amongst the biggest producers and exporters in the world. Especially, we are the first soybean oil exported in the world, and corn. But and also we are the first producer of some other products from the farm that I think that the U.S. is going to open the market very soon. Whatever it is, this is not a business to produce here to send to sell to the U.S. market only. I mean, that's even secondary. I think the investment eventually to those who seeking for business in Argentina is to invest here in order to export to the regional and worldwide markets. That's a very important business. We are 40 million people, and we produce food for 400 million people per year. So we can feed 10 times our own people. And we have a lot of land. When I say a lot of land, I'm telling you perhaps 3 million acres in secondary areas that just need a drop of water to become very competitive in terms of production. So I would say that the main opportunity is the same main challenge, and it's normal that it's that way. Secondary areas, avoiding drought with water. We have the water underground, less water perhaps for you need less quality of land when you just do cattling. Cattling, you can do it. I'm not going to teach you, perhaps you know much more than me, but you can do in feedlot, I mean in an intensive way or in an extensive way or in a mixed way. We are doing a lot in a mixed way. That's why our meat is very, very good. And without grease, for example, without any fat. And you need less quality of land when you do cattling, and you need better quality of land if you do agriculture. Whatever it is, main challenge, drilling the water and irrigating those lands. And you buy them for peanuts for the time being.
Okay. Thank you, Ricardo. You mentioned 40 million population feeding 400 million. Is that a current data point? And what do you see 10 years from now? What's happening? We heard earlier that the U.S. is losing a couple acres every second. Was that the data? And what's happening in Argentina? It sounds like it's the opposite, that there's a lot more land coming in. And finally, how does climate change potentially impact the issue you mentioned about water, which is it? I mean, that could also be detrimental. I guess it could be positive as well. But let us know what you think.
Well, you made three very good questions. The first, the last one about environmental change. Well, that's an issue all over the world, of course, but you have dry zones which are becoming good areas, and good areas which are becoming, which are having too much water with floods and etc. So, but the changes are not, are not so dramatic. There are some changes, but it is not for, for immediate impact. However, I am a very good friend of the one of the, I would say, the leader. She's a doctor, a very well-known doctor who was in charge of the numbers and the measures of measuring the climate change impact for the United Nations all over Latin America. She's an Argentine doctor, and she described each time we meet officially or just for grabbing a coffee, that there are some areas, for example, in La Paz, Bolivia, in the capital of the neighborhood, of the neighbor Bolivia, in 20-25 years, they are not going to have any water. They are experiencing right now lack of water, severe lack of water. But in 20-25 years, they are not going to be able to drink water in the city. So they're going to have many problems in the neighborhood, and they're going to need to go somewhere. And perhaps they're going to come, they're going to be perhaps some of them, they're going to go to our brothers in Peru, and some of them, they're going to come to the southern side. And we are going to need to feed more people. Whatever it is, we are already able to, as I said, to feed 10 times our people right now. But I think we are going to be in 20 years with the technologies and perhaps applying also the technologies that our colleague from Phoenix said, hydroponic, or all intensive techniques of agriculture. Argentina, in a very easy and extensive way, we could increase easily up to 50% our production in the next 15-20 years, just by drilling the water we have underground and irrigating the very good areas, but they are secondary because they have no infrastructure in terms of drilling the water and artificial irrigation. That can be combined with a project of clean, renewable and autonomous energy. And concerning your first question about what about, the world, I would say that I would take advantage that you mentioned my activities in diplomacy, in public diplomacy. And I would say from a geopolitical point of view, that China is going to experience dramatic problems in their capacity of food and water. And this is the last, according to the intelligence analysis, this is the last generation that China is going to have the possibility to feed and give drink to its people. So they are just now trying to not to expand in the traditional terms of empires, but just to create channels in order to secure natural resources. And that challenge, if we unite with the United States of America, we could create a bridge, because something that you cannot produce is land, arable, workable land. You can't produce it. For believers, that was the job of God. What we can do it is to give water to secondary areas where there is a fertile soil that deserves water. And we have that. And we could, from a geopolitical point of view, we can do a good move if we create a sort of economic and commercial and productive strategic alliance with U.S. producers and investors.
Very good. Thank you, Ricardo. Greatly appreciated. I know you've got, you may drop off here in a second, but thank you for your time, and hopefully you can hang on for a little bit longer. Our next presenter is Javier Silva from PromPerú, basically the economic development and promotional arm for the country of Peru with a specialization in agricultural exports. He will be talking today about the activity in Lima and across the country, and he'll be speaking in Spanish with translation from our executive director, Marco, I believe, but you let us know. Marco, hello in Lima, and hello, Javier.
Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, I'm going to be an official translator today. I'll do my best. This is my first time doing that, but I will go paragraph by paragraph, try to do it as understandable as possible. Okay. Go ahead, Javier, in Spanish.
Good morning, everyone. Hi. Bueno, tengo el privilegio de haber observado la agroindustria a un nivel, en diferentes enfoques. Debido a mi carrera profesional, estoy involucrado en temas de calidad y producción a nivel más operacional en plantas agroindustriales. Luego, avanzando en la carrera, he sido capaz de ser responsable de actividades, ya sea logísticas y comerciales, contratos directos con importadores y brokers extranjeros.
Okay, I have had the privilege of being in the agro industry from different perspectives. My professional career, through my professional career, I have been involved in subjects of quality and production in different industrial plants from the operational level, with the specialization in agro export. I have been responsible for logistic areas and commercial areas with direct involvement with the importers and foreign brokers.
En PromPerú, que es una agencia gubernamental nacional, he podido apreciar la agroindustria a niveles macros, apoyando el desarrollo de capacidades y fortalezas de las empresas pymes recién iniciadas en las exportaciones o con interés de iniciarse en ellas. Hemos trabajado con mucho empeño en la difusión y entendimiento de nuevas regulaciones involucradas a la industria y otros sectores que afectan directamente a este sector.
In PromPerú, which is a government agency, I have been able to appreciate agro-industry at different macro levels, supporting the development of capacities and strengths of medium and small companies, newly started in the export business. And we have worked hard to disseminate and understand the new regulations that affect directly this sector.
Hablando sobre los desafíos de hoy en día, existen diferentes enfoques, de nuevo, muy aparte de la diversidad de oferta que existe para nuestro país, como la calidad y el precio. Desde la perspectiva que manejamos, podría comentar que es un gran desafío el adaptar la industria alimentaria nacional según las diferentes leyes y regulaciones de cada país al que pretendemos ingresar. Existen tendencias en cuanto a seguridad e inocuidad de los elementos y alimentación saludable, etc. tendencias lideradas por potencias mundiales como Estados Unidos, Canadá o Unión Europea, y que otros países toman como referencia para proponer su propia ley, así como Perú también.
Regarding the challenges that we see today, there are different approaches, very far apart from the diversity of supply, quality, and price. From the perspective that we handle, I can comment that a great challenge it is to adapt the food industry according to the different laws and regulations of each destination country. There are trends in food safety and and healthy eating, etc. Trends led by world powers like the US and other countries that are taking as a reference to propose their own laws.
En cuanto a las herramientas que proponemos para apoyar a, en cuanto a las herramientas que proponemos para apoyar a la industria peruana, justamente una de ellas es una referida a las regulaciones y requisitos de acceso para ingresar a diferentes destinos, diferentes mercados, países. Una de ellas es la que están viendo en línea. No sé si yo puedo mover.
Yeah, so regarding the new tools that we are developing, I want to show you a new version that we're developing here in PromPerú, right? So can you put that from the beginning, please, Cesar? Okay.
Okay. Yeah, next.
The next one, please.
RAM, o requisitos de acceso al mercado,
RAM, which is requirements to access the market.
es una herramienta desarrollada por PromPerú para facilitar a las empresas nacionales información regulatoria sobre leyes específicamente para el sector agroindustria en esta primera versión.
RAM is a tool developed by PromPerú that helps the industries, the export industries to learn about the regulations in other countries, right?
Anterior.
The previous one, please. Previous to that.
Aquí es el link, quieren seguirnos.
Here is the link in case you want to follow us at the bottom of this page. Okay, go ahead. The next one.
Tratamos de hacer lo más simple posible esta herramienta para los usuarios, para los exportadores peruanos, de tal manera que para la simplicidad de la búsqueda de información tendrán dos ventanas. La primera, el nombre de un producto industrial en esta etapa y el país destino.
There are two, we're trying to simplify the way to follow this tool. For example, here you have a window where you can go through the name of the product or the destination country.
En esta primera etapa, de esta herramienta podrán encontrar, los usuarios de PromPerú y los demás podrán encontrar 20 productos priorizados por los sectores, por el sector agro y pesca. No quiere decir que sean los únicos que podemos exportar. En esa primera etapa han sido priorizados.
In this first stage, we have prioritized 20 products that have been prioritized by our sectors, agro and fishing sectors. These are not the only ones that we're going to promote, but this is just the first stage.
Next. El levantamiento o la búsqueda de información regulatoria, como ya sabemos, el cumplimiento de las leyes de cada país es obligatorio, por lo tal, esa información tiene que aparecer en línea para su acceso de los usuarios que quieran cumplir esas regulaciones. Nosotros tratamos de llevar toda esta información a una sola herramienta y linkear a páginas oficiales, ¿no? En esta primera etapa podremos encontrar información de países como Estados Unidos, Canadá, Alemania, España, Reino Unido y Francia.
Yeah, in this first stage, we're working with you can find in this tool all the regulations and the links to the local regulations of these countries that are on the screen: United States, Canada, Germany, Spain, the United Kingdom, and France. And
En la segunda versión,
in the second version, we're going to have China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Belgium, and the Netherlands.
antes de acabar el año, tenemos también esta tercera versión.
Before the end of the year, we will have all these other countries. So to summarize, we're going to have regulations for export of agro-industrial products to all these 20 countries.
Next. La información que esta herramienta facilita es justamente sobre requisitos fitosanitarios, requisitos sanitarios, MRLs, LMRs, etiquetado, embalaje, certificaciones voluntarias y privadas. Priorizamos la certificación, los requerimientos orgánicos. De ser el país de Estados Unidos, también habrán gestiones con la FDA e información complementaria.
Okay, so the information that you're going to find is all the phytosanitary requirements, sanitary requirements, the MRLs, maximum limits of pesticides, residues, branding or not branding, labeling, packaging, voluntary certifications or certifications of being organic,
FDA,
and FDA regulations and complementary information.
Next. Esa es la visualización de la herramienta. Si ya la han seguido aparte, podrán navegar a través de ella. La primera información que te acerca es quizás el nombre completo del producto que buscamos, el nombre científico, la partida arancelaria, el país elegido, y la opción de descargar toda la información que podamos encontrar en dicha búsqueda.
Okay, this is the way it's gonna be seen, the tool. You can search by name, scientific name, tariff heading, country chosen, and you will have the option to download a guide for the chosen country or a compilation of all the items.
Algo que ahí me gustaría precisar es nosotros que estamos involucrados justamente en el tema de regulaciones, sabemos que existen diferentes fuentes de información, guías creadas por muchísimos países. La virtud o quizás la ventaja de esta herramienta que proponemos para el sector exportador peruano es que no solamente contendrá la información que requiere para ingresar, sino la información, las gestiones nacionales que tiene que cumplir.
Okay, so there are lots of guides that you can find or tools that you can find somewhere in many other countries. I think that the advantage that we have, that this tool presents, is, can you repeat that?
About national gestiones nacionales aquí en nuestro país para salir.
So you will find the local regulations here from Peru that you must comply with to get out of the country, to export.
Lo que están viendo es la información cuando la descargas en formato PDF.
What you see is the downloaded version in PDF.
Como verán, hay muchos links.
As you can see, there are lots of links.
Porque referimos la información a las autoridades competentes en cada país.
Because each link is a reference to the competent authority in each country.
Next. Sabemos que no es la mejor manera cuando uno está investigando, levantando información, verlo en un celular, pero es para una consulta primaria, para refrescar un poco la memoria, también tiene una visualización en celulares, ¿no? Llamada responsive.
Yeah, there is a version for cell phones, which is, we understand it's not the best when you're doing this kind of research, but it's you can have a preliminary view of what you're looking for.
Next. De no encontrarse algún producto, una empresa está interesado en exportar, tenemos también una sección para un contacto directo con nosotros, si es que no se contacten con nosotros en particular. Estamos atentos siempre a cada consulta realizada por los usuarios.
If you cannot find the information you're looking for, you can always contact us, and we are constantly responding very quickly to any request that we get.
Como podrán podido haber apreciar si ingresaron a la página, quizás vieron, además del sector agro, otros banners que eran de otros sectores. Es justamente porque en esta primera versión del RAM incorporamos sectores como el agro y la pesca. Pero esta herramienta de requisitos y regulaciones se expandirá y podrá adaptarse a otros sectores como son el sector textil o manufactura, además de seguir creciendo en cuanto a productos de pesca y agro.
Yeah. So initially we're going to concentrate on fishing and agro industries, but eventually we will have information on other areas like textile and manufacturing.
Next. Eso es todo en cuanto a la herramienta.
Okay. So that's it about this very new tool that we're promoting, and
encontrarán que es de un uso bastante sencillo y simplificado, justamente para facilitar esta información tan importante en cuanto a nuevas regulaciones y acercarla, facilitarla a nuestros clientes, a nuestros usuarios.
you will find out that this is very easy to use, and it's very accessible, and we really hope that it's going to be a very useful tool to our in promoting our industry and helpful to everybody who wants to export to other countries.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And so we've got about 20 to 25 minutes left for questions, and we have our first question. I also want to make it really clear that if you have questions about Latin America, you can contact Marco directly at marco@globalchamber.org. They're in Peru, or you can contact any of us, including myself, Doug, D-O-U-G, at globalchamber.org. If you can't get your question asked, or you just want to meet up with somebody that is part of this conversation. I'd like to go over to David in Springfield, Mo, not Illinois, and because one of the questions that came in is regarding vertical farming, pretty much asking what it is. I'd like to know a little bit more about it. And kind of related to that, just coincidentally, this last week I saw an article at the World Economic Forum that talked about a vertical building in Taiwan that has 23,000 plants. That's primarily, they're advocating it because of how many tons of carbon dioxide it eats and absorbs. But I would presume that something like that could also be, you have a building, you live in a high rise in a city, and if vertical farming is perfected, you're farming within your own building, which probably doesn't happen today. So is that kind of the future? And could you tell us, maybe start out, what is vertical farming, and are those the kinds of things that we're talking about that might become second nature 30, 50 years from now? David?
Yeah, I was just making sure I could unmute myself. Well, yes, absolutely. The idea of integrating vertical farming into residential and commercial structures is something that's, I think, an option that's going to be very viable as we move forward. But our system is more driven-based. It's a structure-driven system that allows for us to utilize the strength of primarily of the concrete grain elevator to stack racks inside the facility and go vertical 150 feet depending on the height of the structure. I'm going to try and share my screen real quick to just give you a picture of kind of that I think does a much better job of explaining kind of what our structure would technically look like.
Okay, and while you're explaining that, also why? I mean, tell us why vertical? Is it just because it's a silo? Is there some scientific reason why? So that, tell us more about that side of it as well. Just practical information. What are we really talking about?
So why the silo and why vertical is we believe we figured out the solution to solve the need for additional farmland in various areas where it's not readily available, and more importantly, the main problem with controlled environment agriculture is controlling your environment. Greenhouses, be they traditional greenhouse or a warehouse that is converted to a vertical greenhouse like the Bright Farms and the Arrow Farms of the world are doing. I haven't seen their budgets, but I imagine that the majority of their cost is controlling their environment because they're dealing in facilities that are not designed for controlled environment agriculture. A greenhouse is going to be why you may have some energy savings because you're getting light from the sun and you're getting heat from the natural environment. We did our initial pilot project or our field test in a greenhouse, and we were dealing with temperature fluctuations of sometimes up to 70 degrees in a single day, where it's it could be 40 degrees at night in April here in Southwest Missouri, but during the day when it's 75 or 80 degrees outside, that high tunnel that had our 22-foot diameter raft in it could be 110, 115 degrees. So controlling the temperature was a big problem, and so what the concrete structure allows for us to get, because those facilities were designed at a point in time when they needed to ensure the safety not only of the workers in the facilities, but the gold that was the food that was being stored in them. They are designed as, they monitor temperature, they monitor humidity. They are designed for controlling the environment because they were dealing with grain that is combustible, and if it's not properly handled, it would blow up, for technical legal term. So I think the answer to the question is going vertical is, there's a Dr. Dixon DePome, I believe he's an NYU professor that taught a class and basically had his students try and solve the problem for how they would feed New York City in 2050. And basically they came up with a conclusion that what you need is a concrete structure that's 200 feet long, 50 feet wide, and 150 feet tall. Well, that's essentially what we're dealing with a concrete grain elevator, is a structure that is designed to house, and through the nature of the concrete and everything that's built into the facility is the perfect structure for vertical farming. I'm going to try and share my screen here real quick. And this is an artist rendition of what we're essentially doing within. This is so basically what you see is we're stacking racks or hydroponic beds. It'll be a 6 to 8 inch steel, almost like the bottom of a tank, and they'll be stacked every 4.5 to 5 feet with their own lighting system attached to the structure above it. And we will move vertically within what they call the interstice bins of the concrete grain elevator to access each level where we will harvest the product, which will be, in our pilot project here in Springfield, Missouri, which will utilize the 3 westernmost silos of our 13 silo complex. We believe we can produce somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 pounds of leafy green produce a day. I think Ricardo said that they're not making we're not making any more farmland. I believe by going vertical, we are creating new farmland, and that in my mind is the true linchpin to why our system works, and really why I think we can in many ways revolutionize agriculture, because when you go vertical in facilities that are built to handle not only the product but the weight and the mass of the product that's being grown, and they're designed for human and product logistics, you've really got all the answers.
Okay, so nobody's mentioned, or you haven't mentioned, the fact that, like, if you had urban agriculture, you'd remove a lot of the logistics challenge, because a lot of the locations for these are in the Midwest instead of New York, where the people live. So is that not an issue, or is the logistics part of it just more of a complication, or is that an opportunity?
No, I think you're exactly right. I think again, it's regardless of what we think of our current political environment, I think the election was a referendum on freedom and control. And I think that resonates I think by turning on these structures in various municipalities around this country, you return some semblance of freedom and control over your food supply on a local basis, and freedom from dependence upon whether it's foreign production or whether it's production in California and Arizona. You give local economies some semblance of control over the food that's being consumed by their people, and also you give them a viable business, creating jobs that allows them to effectively better the local economy. And yes, absolutely, the logistics is a huge benefit, because if we're harvesting product in Springfield, Missouri, we're local to, depending on what your definition of local is, whether it's 250 miles or 500 miles, you get to Kansas City, you get to St. Louis, you get to Oklahoma City, you get to Tulsa, you get to Wichita, you get to Little Rock, Arkansas. You're providing a local product that is shipped, with less than 250 to 500 miles, opposed to a product that's harvested in Southern California, processed, packaged, rinsed, washed, and then sits in a truck for a couple of days being shipped across the country. Absolutely, the ability to put these facilities in locations where there is a need not only from a production standpoint, but also a need from a logistics standpoint for distribution and transportation is a huge benefit to going vertical. Buffalo, New York is one of the largest clusters of concrete grain elevators in this country. I think there's 14 or 15 that are substantially larger than what we're dealing with here in Springfield, Missouri, and half, if not more, are vacant and abandoned. Potentially turning on a couple facilities in Buffalo, you're potentially talking about production of millions of pounds of produce a year. That is, hours from New York City opposed to days, and really talk about making a big impact on the Eastern Seaboard's food supply, because it has to be the case that product shipped from California to New York is going to be worse than the product that's, that if it's dropped off in Las Vegas or it's dropped off in Denver, because you've got another couple thousand miles for that product to transfer. And so absolutely the logistics of being able to put these facilities and develop these facilities where the need is critical in reducing our the transportation cost. And that's one of the things why I think our system works, is because we're going to be able to, potentially have a product that's got a greater shelf life. You're going to reduce the carbon footprint because the product's not going to be shipped that completely across the country. I think we've got the answer to potentially a large number of the production situation that I think our country is going to face, and I think we're going to face globally in the next 20 to 30 years.
Okay, very good. I'm going to come back or give everybody an opportunity at the end in a few minutes to tell everybody how people can tap in to each opportunity each one of you have. The next question, though, in the meantime, is regarding aquaponics. And so whoever would like to jump into this one, please do. Basically, Jean and David spoke about sustainability with respect to renewable energy and about hydroponics and repurposing assets, respectively. What is your take about the concept of aquaponics? How do you see adoption of this technique? And feel free to chime in. Who would like to start?
Well, I can start and let Gene take over. I mean, I think aquaponics is great. The problem is dealing with fish is a pain. You know, that's when we started this process 2.5 years ago, some of our initial conversations were with Dr. James Ricosi, who is essentially the father of the the Virgin Islands system of aquaponics. And basically his comment to us was, if you're going to this scale, why would you mess with fish? They're a pain. That being said, the concrete grain elevator and our patent does contemplate aquaculture. It does, you know, aquaculture being both hydroponics and aquaponics. Aquaponics would, you know, the perfect, you know, we've got the silos are, the bottoms of the silos are a perfect fish tank. And, you know, we could easily implement in future versions of our system, and we've contemplated it in our patent, the idea of incorporating aquaponics into these structures, because you have a perfect fish tank in the bottom of these silos.
Okay, very good.
Okay. So I believe that the real question is, how are we going to feed 3 to 5 billion people in the next 30 or 50 years? And I think that there's not one solution, but it's about trying to find different solutions who are going to work together. I think it's about synergy, trying to find a way to be more productive, and knowing that the society is shifting from the big crops production to more specialized production, and find a way for those two to be able to cohabitate. In the only goal is to be able to feed all those people around the world. And I believe that hydroponic or any kind of way that people are finding right now who can help the society and help also the earth to be able to be sustainable will be the solution.
So Gina, it's interesting to hear these perspectives, because on the one hand, what we've heard from Latin America, or at least my perception is, it's more about the land and the kind of the use of what's out there. And then when we hear more around some of the things that you've done in Africa, they're just at a different stage in development. And then in the U.S. perspective, it's how do we be more efficient, whether it's using the biochemicals, or whether it's stacking, or whether it's other technologies to make the process more efficient. I mean, what's your perspective on kind of where the opportunities are going to lie? Is Jean correct in the sense of that there's many different solutions here, and those solutions will vary by location around the world?
I think that we are seeing I see that we are seeing a shift since we are moving from a fossil fuel energy society to a more environmentally friendly, and that in the agriculture there's going to be a new field, a new opportunity for people to invest.
Okay, very good. Gina, what do you think?
I think that there are opportunities depending on the expertise that the agriculture producer is bringing, and depending on the locale. I think Gene pointed that out. I think the large production agriculture will continue. I think that the niche farming will also develop, and those markets driven by consumer demand will bear. And whether you are on a continent that has little sun or whether you are a continent that has full sun, the environmental concern when we are talking about indoor farming or outdoor farming will be disease and pest control and biosecurity. We haven't really spent a lot of time talking about that, but I think in vertical innovations, probably one of the biggest threats that Dave will say is that you bring in a disease or a pest because your truck has gone across to town and now is coming back into the operation, and unbeknownst and unseen to you, you are inviting a disease and pests that can wipe out within hours of your production. That will be a threat, that hidden threat, that unknown threat, that undocumented threat. As we become a global world, we transport disease and pest very quickly. That doesn't matter if you're a large farm or a small farm or indoor, outdoor. That is something that we need to continue to talk about, and collaboration is the way that we do that. Biosecurity is a huge issue in agriculture.
Okay, very good. How can people get more involved in some of the things that you're doing, Gina?
The way to get involved in some of the things that we're doing when you're talking about developing agriculture and developing countries certainly is to see what your skill sets are. And what you have, what value you can bring to agriculture, meeting people at their needs. That's critical. Money and time and investment is great, but being able to meet people at their needs to develop a viable production. Sustainability, bad agriculture practices can be sustained. We've seen it done for hundreds, or definitely for many, many years, decades. And what happens is erosion, loss and deforestation, you see those things taking place. So if people are interested in learning more about how to develop agriculture in developing countries, give the Global Chamber Indy, contact the director in the offices here in Indy, and they will put you in contact with me or at the Sagamore Institute for sure.
Very good. And that's Weilin Long, Weilin at globalchamber.org in Indianapolis. Or my email will find a way. Javier and Lima. So you talked about a system that you're putting in. How many languages is that? How is that kind of what our main contact to Lima should be? And then if there's a human to speak with, who should that be? Is that you? Is it Marco? How do we connect into the market there in Lima?
Para contestar a tu pregunta, la herramienta que presentamos previamente está en esta primera versión en español, ya que es justamente para acercar esta información a usuarios peruanos, pero mucha de esta información también tiene su versión oficial en inglés, que también dejamos los links en esta misma herramienta, o en diferentes idiomas, dependiendo del mercado. Si es Canadá, también está en francés. Sobre aquí...
Perdón. So right now this tool is in Spanish because it's serving the Peruvian market, but most of the links are in the native language of the country we are referring to. For example, if you visit, if you link to some Canadian links, you're going to find also French and so on.
Sobre quién sería el nivel en que atendemos a los usuarios, si esa fue la pregunta.
Sí.
Tenemos diferentes niveles de atención en PromPerú. Un nivel primario vendría a ser nuestra plataforma de asistencia, en el que los potenciales exportadores se acercan con preguntas quizás a un nivel más básico, ¿sí? Cuando se base un poco más...
online.
Online y presencial. Cuando se hace más rigurosa la información que están solicitando o más técnica, se les deriva a especialistas en diferentes temas. Uno de ellos, si una de las consultas vendría a ser sobre requisitos y regulaciones de acceso, vendría derivada a nuestra área, el área en la que laboro.
So PromPerú has a basic platform where you can approach with essentially basic questions, and it can be online or it can be physical here in Lima, in Peru, or by phone. but if the questions or the requirements are a little bit more complex, they will lead you to different specialists. And if it is regarding regulations, they will go to their area, Javier's area, who he will be very happy to assist you.
Y para complementar, nuestras oficinas principales están en la capital Lima, pero PromPerú tiene presencia en diferentes regiones a lo largo de todo el Perú. Por ello, las empresas que no se encuentren en Lima pueden acudir a nuestras oficinas a nivel regional, ¿no?
So PromPerú's main offices are in Lima, but it has a presence in different regions in Peru, within Peru. What if they want to contact you from other countries? So we are present also in the Peruvian embassies through the Commercial Council.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Jean,
Yeah.
How can people get involved? They're really excited about what you're offering, the efficiency of production through the materials that you have. How do they get
I would like
involved?
to get back to Gina's really pertinent comment regarding whatever you grow produce outdoor, or if you grow produce indoor, you're going to face the problem of biosecurity. And that's where we come in, that our company have developed a technology who can fight that indoor and outdoor and post-harvest also. So like that, we have the whole security from the get-go to the end. And you can reach us at bionovelus.com. And we have new technology. We are getting and more traction into the market in the next months, where we're going to roll out in Central America, because once again, it's easier. People are more open to new technology than some other countries.
Okay. So you really started out, sounds like, with the coffee rust,
With-
but you've gone way beyond that.
We started with the coffee rust, and we're able to prove that our product can kill La Roya de Café in 48 hours. So it's really unique. And coffee rust, it's a worldwide problem. And if nothing is done in that industry, by 2050, we'll not have any more Arabica coffee.
Thank you.
So we need some help.
David, last words from Springfield. How can people get involved?
You know, actually, reach out to me directly. My email is david@vertical-innovations.com. I'd love to speak more with anybody that has some interest in what we're doing, and, you know, potentially bounce some ideas off each other. Really interested in some of the comments from Gina, and I think that the you know, the biosecurity and you know, that's one of the, and I agree with that, and that's one of our biggest, I think, benefits of a completely airtight production facility. I mean, we're going to create a clean green zone. I mean, it's going to be almost a science lab type environment, and so. But no, I think the best way to get involved is to reach out to me directly. I'm generally available and always love to talk about what we've got going and get feedback and get suggestions, because you know, I hate to sound cliche, but you know, I one of the things that I've said from day one as we've been presenting our potential to investors and to strategic partners is with you we can help everyone, and I really believe that. I think getting one of these projects up and going will prove not only what we're saying, but prove that we potentially have a solution to really start working toward solving the impending food crisis in a controlled, sustainable environment that utilizes significantly less resources from land to energy to water than the traditional farming practices.
Very good. Thank you. How about a round of applause for all the different locations for our speakers? Resonating from all the way from the southern tip of Latin America to the world. We do these multi-metro events 3 times a month. And so the next three that are coming up, if my memory serves me correctly, is the next one is the 23rd of August, so next week. And somebody, it might have been David, it might have been Jean, mentioned blockchain technology. And so we have a speaker, Scott Nelson of Sweetbridge. They just launched, and they are doing their initial coin offering in October, looking to raise about $80 million from that, and then more beyond that. But what's really interesting, in addition to the money that they're generating, is the story about blockchain and how that's really changing everything. And so I highly recommend, that's August 23rd. And then the next one after that is August 28th. We're going to be doing a conversation about Africa and the opportunities in Africa, including speakers from different parts of Africa. So that's the 28th of August. And then finally, if my memory serves me correctly, September 12th, we have a very special event with one of our member sponsors, Polsinelli Law Firm. From 7 of their locations around the U.S., they'll be speaking about international trade. It's been kind of touched on, the political side of things, whether Argentina or other countries, including the U.S. There have been a lot of changes. Certainly trade deals have evolved and are evolving, and companies need to stay in front of those, you know, in terms of what's going on and what some of the opportunities are, and where new trade deals are happening. And so we're going to have Melissa Proctor of Polsinelli be the main speaker and talk about international trade around the world, but then speakers from all 7 locations of Polsinelli from around the United States will be speaking about different topics, whether it's agriculture, manufacturing, technology, regulations, which we touched on today, pretty much everything related to anything you might be involved with importing and exporting, September 12th. Thank you, everybody. Have a great time and hope to see you next time. Thank you, speakers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're amazing.